Welcome to the World Series. As you can see by JJ's background, if you've been living under a rock, it is the Yankees against the Dodgers. I am wearing a New York shirt that basically it's my future Cub Juan Soto shirt. I think it's looking
Oh
pretty
yeah.
cool. So I don't have anything Dodgers, but I thought, I'll just wear this, and maybe I'm bringing that Juan
Vibe.
Soto vibe. Come to the Cubbies. Come to the Cubbies. And I know we're probably not going to fork over that kind of money, but hey, I can dream.
Yeah.
I can dream. And
Dreaming is cheap.
give me the stream, okay? Anyway, hey, if you're watching us on the YouTube channel and you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button so you can have our content as soon as it drops. Remember to like us on Facebook. You can contact us through one card, one cup, one beer at gmail.com. You can support our efforts through Patreon for as little as $3 or as much as $10 a month. And remember, when you support us on Patreon, you get a gift sent to you through the U.S. mail. Isn't that cool? A gift
Beautiful.
worth at least 87 cents, but you get a gift. It's pretty cool. So we do appreciate all of you who support our efforts. If you want to be a contestant on a trivia contest, a guest on a panel, if you have an interesting baseball related topic you're educated on, please drop us an email, send us a DM, leave us a comment, say, hey, I'd like to be a guest on your show, because once again, as I say every week, we love to have our friends who watch and listen to the show on our show. So, uh, JJ, how you doing?
Oh, that's wonderful. I know we talk about baseball 98% of the time, but we like pop culture too. And a lot of things creep into our conversations. And I don't know, did you get to watch the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions over the weekend?
No, I didn't. I didn't even hear who was inducted.
It was on Disney. We've got that. So, and I love music. I love rock and roll, and kind of, rock and roll kind of is a wide range of different genres. But it was fantastic. I believe there was like 8 artists inducted this year, and some musical people, DJs, things like that. So they would induct somebody and then show a little film on this other person and what they meant to music, like a Rolling Stone writer. And it just kind of carried on, and it was fantastic. Foreigner, I can't believe they weren't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but they got put in. And what's great about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is you have an artist who comes out and talks about the band. You see a movie about them, a little film on their careers. They come up and they they accept the award and say a little speech, and then they play if they can. Some of them, like Cool and the Gang, went in, but there's only 2 members left. That's it, 2 members,
It's
and
not much of a
they're getting up there in the
gang.
years. Yeah, it's a little game. But the Roots were the house band. It used to be Paul Schaefer and the World's Most Dangerous Band. Now it's the Roots that play, and they're fantastic. And they
So
play with almost every band up there.
I saw the Roots about 20 years ago at the St. Louis Rib thing they used to do.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Okay.
one night it was a weird lineup. They had the Roots playing, and then they had live playing after that. So you had the Roots with their, funk type of music, big huge band. Then you had live 90s alternative band. It was just kind of strange to see those two together on the same venue. But
Well, Cool and the Gang, their last Van Halen's last tour in St. Louis, Cool and the Gang opened for them. And
yeah,
that's
I remember that.
back in the old days, you would have all kinds of different artists together, Rush and Kiss, and all kinds of different artists like that in there. So it was really cool. Dionne Warwick went in, Mary J. Blige, Foreigner, Ozzy Osbourne as a solo artist, and that was really good. Jack Black inducted him, and I don't know if he's walking. He came out on like a throne, like some sort of devil throne, and all he didn't sing. He just yelled, "All aboard!" And they did Crazy Train, and Wolfie Van Halen played, and then Jelly Roll came out saying, Mama, I'm coming home. And then Billy Idol finished with the third song, and Steve Stevens, his guitar player. It was great. It was great. So I really enjoyed it. And let's see, Dave Chappelle inducted a rap group, which name escapes me right now, but I learned a lot about them. It was fantastic. So if you get a chance, I think they're going to show it around New Year's Day and show it in a smaller, not as long. I think it was 4.5 hours long, but it was really cool. Peter Frampton went in, by the way, Peter, and Roger Daltrey inducted him into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
But I don't get about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I've been there. I love it. But they have some people who are in just from influence.
Yeah.
Um, I think MC5 is in there, and most
Yes.
people have no idea who MC5 is, but they're basically the godfathers of American punk. That Detroit, that like Iggy Pop, MC5 all came out of. So you have some obscure bands that are in there, and then you have uh, the bands that are in there because they've like Foreigner, they were very commercially successful. With that said, two bands perplex me. I don't know why REO Speedwagon isn't in there.
I
Um,
agree.
the the group that I feel like is most uh, analogous to REO Speedwagon is Cheap Trick, and they've been in for 10 years. They're both Midwestern
They
bands.
were,
They're both kind of pop bands, although REO has kind of this weird history for the 70s. They were a rock band with a little bit of blues, and then they became a pop band. I prefer the rock band, but being a pop band in the 80s paid the bills a lot better than being a rock band sprinkled with some blues. So, and I've always thought that Kevin Cronin, maybe it's his voice that sounds a little too high and feminine. So I wonder if that's what keeps them out. The second group I don't understand. And some of these 90s bands are getting in, but Soundgarden, I don't get that, man. There are very few bands that you can listen to and say they don't sound like anybody else. I don't hear an influence in The Who.
yeah.
You don't really hear, you listen to the Rolling Stones, you realize that they borrowed a lot from blues. You listen to The Who, and that just sounds completely innovative and
More.
different.
Yeah.
And I Soundgarden was so different. Even for that 90s grunge era, I'm thinking, why aren't they in there? And sometimes, one of the things that hacks me off, now I'm getting on a baseball, I don't like when players are inducted posthumously because they can't enjoy it. Ron Santo, yeah, your players are not getting better. They're retired. Either they're Hall of Fame or they're not. To say, boy, after 40 years and the guy dying from diabetes, yeah, now he deserves it. That is, I don't get that logic. Either you're a Hall of Famer or you're not. Sometimes I wonder, why do we wait 5 years? Although I do understand there are reasons because you do have to let things settle a little bit. Um, but either you're a Hall of Famer or you're not. And I kind of see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame like that. Um, Either a group is a Hall of Famer or an artist is a Hall of Famer or they're not. And I think that's why a lot of the rock fans, I'm talking about hardcore rock fans, they don't like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because you have Run DMC and rap artists, and there's some more country type artists in there. They
Dolly
they
Parton.
yeah, they see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should be, guys
Yeah.
with long hair, smoking pot, faded jeans, that's the kind of, that's, if it's not that, that's not rock and roll to them, which is funny that they don't like rap in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because rock and roll is directly comes out of the roots of the African American culture, and uh,
I link rap and country together because it's just guys singing about their neighborhoods. One has a ball cap on, one's got a cowboy hat on, and man, Johnny Cash, he wrote some rough lyrics. Man, you go back and read. Let's just read the lyrics on some of Johnny's songs. You're like, my gosh, it have that. It have that. What is that? Uh, Parents warning lyrics could be dangerous
yeah.
kind of thing on them. So I always kind of equated them two together right there.
See, I think the reason I love country music, especially old country music, I don't like modern country music, is because country music is storytelling. They, and I actually put a meme together a few days ago while I was bored, my top 10 country music songs. And I put under in the meme, this is Vince Opper's point of view. A good country song has to tell a story and it has to be centered around emotion. Um, if you can pull that off, and sometimes the emotions in country songs are very, very dark, like
Yeah.
you know, singing about divorce, singing about uh, Red Sovine, singing about the crippled kid getting a ride in the truck that makes you want to cry,
Teddy Bear, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, or that other Red Sovine had some great songs. That other song where he got mad at his kids because they kept killing the grass when they were little, and the kids would say, "Yeah, Dad's gonna grow back," and then at the end, he and his wife are looking at the beautiful lawn. I'm gonna cry, and his wife does. If you listen real close, you can still hear the kids sing. It'll come back. And man, that
Yeah.
makes me want to cry.
Man, that is heartbreaking right
Yeah,
there. Oh yeah.
Conway Twitty song. We're never going to get to baseball. That Conway Twitty song where uh, the kid goes on a camping trip with his friend, and the kid's actually, he's got a single mother, and dad's not in the picture, and he wants to do the things that dads do, and he keeps saying, "Mom, I want to do the things that the daddies do," and she has to explain that one of the things daddies do is leave sometimes. Oh my gosh, stop it.
Oh, cats in the cradle.
Oh,
Oh
gosh,
man.
stop it. Stop it.
Okay. All right.
But you want to know something? I, my whole philosophy of parenting, this is how emotional I am. My whole philosophy of parenting came from Cats in the Cradle. It did. It was like, okay, I don't want to be that dad. I don't. I don't want to be that dad who the kids have no idea who I am or anything. So I am probably more emotionally wrapped up in my kids than what's healthy. Um,
I don't know if that's such a thing. You're a good man. I
I,
tell you what. That's philosophy though. You do the opposite. You be there, you cherish every moment. I think that's wonderful. It's hard to do. Sometimes you take things for granted.
have you ever heard country Ugly Kid Joe's version of Cats in the Cradle?
I have heard that.
Oh, that's great.
Uh, I tell you what, Faster Pussycat, that may not be your cup of tea. They're a hard rock band, but they had a song called House of Pain where the kid would go out on the steps and wait for his dad to come down the road. He never came. Oh, man, it rip your heart out.
Uh, we want to talk about baseball.
I guess, hey, we got to get up. I'll tell you what, I'm going to have to get some tissue. We got to bring this up a little bit now.
Okay. Well, the Players' Choice Award finalists have been named, and they are Judge Otani and Bobby Witt Jr. Big surprise there. Um,
Yeah.
who is going to win this? And it's not going to be Bobby Witt. So who's going to win this?
And I don't know. Both of them had such incredible years, led their teams to World Series. I don't know. I think Judge, maybe. Judge, perhaps. He's going to get the New York vote. I don't know.
Right? This is
A 6'7" man playing center field. I never thought I'd see the day. And he plays a heck of a center field and got a good arm too. He's something else. I tell you what. I wish other teams had captains. By the way, he's the captain of the Yankees, and that's a honorable thing that's been passed through the years. for only the special players, Jeter and Thurman Munson and those folks. And I wish other teams had a captain, other team too. That's kind of cool to see.
Are the Yankees the only team with a captain?
I think so. I think so. I think the Cardinal, I think Kenny Boyer, I, I have to go back and look, but I thought Kenny Boyer at one time was named captain of the Cardinals in the 60s, but I don't know.
I I don't remember. I don't recall.
Covey ever captain?
No, and I'm trying to think of any other baseball teams that have captains. I'm sure it's happened before. I just nothing's coming to
Yeah.
mind. Um, I I I I think in today's world of free agency and it's Munson stayed forever, Jeter stayed forever. I don't know if Mantle was ever a captain, but he was there forever. The Yankees used to just hold on to their players.
Yeah.
That's probably where the tradition came from. Hey, for the last 12 years, so and so has been the captain. You know,
I think DiMaggio, he might have been captain too. He had that kind of, stoic
yeah,
personality.
yeah. Gene Brabender, he was the captain of the Pilots.
You too. That went over my head. That might not even be a real person. I
Oh,
wouldn't
it
know.
is.
It is.
He played for the Pilots.
Oh, you got me on that one.
So anyway, those are the three finalists for the Players' Choice Award. I don't think Bobby Witt Jr. has a snowball's chance of winning, but it will be interesting to see, Judge or Otani wins that. But just kind of interesting. Uh, I read a pretty good article today about the playoffs, and we're going to get to the playoffs. Um, about the I guess the more and more usage of relievers in playoff games. And that trend was kind of started by the Royals in 14 and 15, two straight World Series champ or appearances, one championship, where their philosophy was let's just get the starter through the first 5 innings or maybe the first two times through the order, and then we'll make it a bullpen game. And there's been a lot of talk about how um, we are starting to see reliever familiarity in the playoffs because you're playing the same team for an extended time. They're bringing in the relievers just about every game. There's more days off, so they can pitch more. So that's why you see like Clase having his issues in the bullpen.
Oh yeah.
Um, oh gosh, who else? Diaz did not have the best playoff run this year. But then again, um, they looked at stats, and it's kind of an illusion because the relief ERA it, this year has been very comparable to what it was for the previous 10 years. So it's almost like this illusion that there's familiarity with the bullpen, so they're hitting the bullpen better. That's really not so much the case. But I do remember um, even Mariano Rivera had some hiccups in postseason. It's you're not playing the Pirates, you're not playing the White Sox, you're playing the best teams in the playoffs, and sure, you're it's going to be tougher to pitch against better hitting. Um, you know, what do you think
This,
about?
yeah, the stress of it too. I know, you're so close to getting to the big prize. And I think you try to trick yourself that it's just a pitch and catch. I'm just pitching to this guy, just like a normal game. But I don't know. You have to be almost dead inside to not let it get to you a little bit. Vince, I always had a philosophy. If your starter's going good, leave him in. There was a game, I think it was the Padres and Snell. And they took him out. He was doing so good, and they fell apart. When you bring in about 4 or 5 bullpen guys in, there's a chance one of them's not going to have it. I know they're observing him in the bullpen. Sometimes they get in there and they just don't have it. I've seen a couple of guys come in and start throwing, you know, way outside pitches, and it takes them a batter or two sometimes to get it under wraps. But these batters are now seeing sometimes four at bats, 4 different pitchers, and that's got to be hard. And they're world class pitchers, but I just think about the long term fatigue because you're so close, you're going for it, and you're going to give everything you got. But it seems like some of these starters, they're yanking them out the second inning, sometimes second, third inning. They're getting them out of there, going straight to the bullpen. And those days of Morris and Glavin going 9 innings and our Smoltz, I believe it was, and those days are probably over. But I think the relievers should be getting bigger paychecks. It was always the starting pitchers that got the big money, but there's only a handful that are truly great. And now the bullpen guys, I don't know. You don't see a lot of guys don't bounce back after 2 or 3 years of heavy use. Sometimes they have surgeries or they just aren't quite as good as they once were. They get burned up quick. That's kind of how I see it. But a lot of these teams, when they got the chance, this chance may never come back around. Let's go for it. So they're burning the bridges. It's entertaining. It's entertaining to see all these different pitchers and the different batters, and they're switching lefties and righties or switch hitting and turning it around. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I don't think it's I think these guys are athletes and they kind of know what they can do. I saw how many times they use some of these bullpen guys, and I think some of them were used 3 days in a row, but sometimes it's just an inning at a time. So it seems to be working, you know. That's the way these I know they got all the sabermetrics on all these pitchers, and this seems to be the way of the future. So in the I don't think you can do it for a whole year though. That year the
No.
Reds had the Nasty Boys. They rotate. They usually pitch two of them almost every day, as long as they were even or ahead, and rested one, and they just kept rotating them. But as you know, that only really lasted 1 year. But the Royals got two World Series appearances out of that.
Yeah, in that 2015 World Series, that was kind of a symbolic change. The Mets did the old school thing in that last game. Harvey wanted to stay in for the ninth, and they let him stay in. He talked the manager. I was it Terry Collins at the time.
I think so.
Said I'm going back out in the ninth. And the Royals were, this team that's, you know, after the fifth inning, it's bullpen, bullpen, bullpen. It's high octane arm after high octane arm. And in the ninth inning, the Royals got to Harvey when maybe if the Mets would have dipped into their bullpen, they wouldn't have had that blow up in the ninth. And the Royals stuck with their guns. But even in the 2014 World Series, um, the Giants relied so heavily the whole series on Baumgartner, and the Royals were doing their thing. And that World Series, I think that went 7 games too,
I
went
think
six or
so.
7 games. So it's a situation where that Royals team is kind of like the changing of the guard. This is how we're going to do postseason from now on. And most teams have followed that. And the Cubs have been criticized for the past 10 years. In 2016, Game 7, they took out Kyle Hendricks with 2 outs in the fourth and brought in John Lester, and Lester gave up a couple runs. I think one with a wild pitch. It was kind of a freak thing, but it worked out okay. But a lot of Cub fans who are Kyle Hendricks fans, you should have left him in there for one more out and given him the win. And I remember even I think Glavin was doing that game. Glavin said if it wasn't Glavin, it was some former pitcher that um, when the Cubs took out Hendricks, that the Indians at that time were thrilled because they weren't hitting him, and they thank God that guy's out of there, and worked out good for the Cubs. But even in that game 7, it shows you how tough it is to close out a huge game. We bring in the bottom of the 10th to close out that game with a 2-run lead. We bring in Carl Edwards Jr., who had a great year in the bullpen as a setup man, but we couldn't pitch Chapman because he was spent because he had pitched the previous 2 innings. We sent out Carl Edwards Jr., and he got the first 2 outs, boom, boom. And then I think he gave up a walk and a hit. And then we bring in Mike Montgomery, and you're saying who? Yeah, Mike Montgomery got the save in that game, and Mike Montgomery got a ground out to Chris Bryant, and
Ooh, I
I think
remember
that
he slipped in that rain. He
I
slipped
think
on
that
that.
was
Ooh,
that was the only save he had the whole year.
and it's baseball's a
It
crazy
is,
game.
it is a crazy game. So,
Oh
uh,
man.
so the Mets put up a good fight. The Cinderella story is over. Sorry, Mark. Um, the Dodgers just seem to me to have too much thump, and the Mets, who are relying very heavily on their bullpen. And I remember last week saying if they bring out Kota Senga and anything else but a blowout, I don't know what's there. They brought out Kota that last game and he gave up a couple more runs, but because they're spent, they'd run out of bullpen arms that weren't exhausted. So the Dodgers won that series 4-2. The Dodgers just seem to me to have way too much thump for the Mets to handle in the long run. Yeah, they won their one game. They won it in dramatic fashion. Um, excuse me, they won two games, but they just couldn't keep up. So I've got to
Even in
ask.
that last game, they were battling back. Even at the end, they kept fighting and getting hits and scoring. I was like, these Mets, man, they got a fighter. They're a fighting team. But like you said, Dodgers from top to bottom. That's a tall order, man. Everything's got to go perfect for you to get those guys.
Okay, it's July, and I walk up to you and I say, "Hey, JJ, you want to know who's going to be the MVP of the National League Championship Series? Tommy Edman." And you're going to
I would have
say,
laughed.
"Oh, great! The Cardinals are going to the playoffs." No, he's going to be traded to the Dodgers while injured, and he's going to be the one to emerge. What would you have said to me?
I would have said, well, who did we get for him? I mean, how did this all happen? Tommy Edman was hurt most of the year. We didn't even, and he had a wrist surgery, and it just kept getting delayed and delayed. He wasn't cleared for baseball activities, and I've had this argument with a lot of my Cardinal friends, fan friends, and they love Donovan. And I like Donovan, but I like Tommy Edman better. And we've had that. So there's these two camps. And Edman led our team in stolen bases 3 years. I just like the way he battles. He gets up there, always takes good at bats. Multiple player, but so was Donovan. But then Segis came and won a batting title in the minors, and it's moved up, and he's about to be on our team. So we needed pitching, and we had to give up something good to get pitching. So that's what we did. And I'm so happy for Tommy Edman. I know I hear a lot of people, oh, there's another card. How could they let him go? But let me tell you, every one of these people that run their yappers, every single one of them, they didn't say a peep when we made the trade. It's only after he gets the MVP. Now here they all come. It's easy to be Monday night quarterback on after a Sunday football game. It's easy to be on Monday and say that, where were you guys when the trade was made? Not to be seen.
Okay,
So anyway,
I'm gonna give you some pushback. Okay,
okay.
this happened before I was born. We traded Brock for Broglio. I still hear about it from people. So there is a measure of these Cardinal fans who have needled me for
Oh yeah.
almost 60 years about this trade that was done before I was born. You guys keep letting these guys go who become postseason heroes. And I mean, it is just getting weird. Um,
Well, then we should get credit for being
Rosa
maybe the
Ray,
best team drafted. We're
yeah,
number one.
yeah, it's just it's just dumb luck. It really dumb bad luck for the Cardinals that when you decide you need to make a trade because you do have to trade talent to get talent. I mean,
You
that's just
do.
the nature of it. There are
Yeah.
times you're going to make a trade. It's not going to work out for you. There are times you're going to make a trade. It's not going to work out for the other person. Times you make a trade. It's not going to work out for either of you. Or you make a trade. It works out for both of you. Trading it's a gamble. It's just the Cardinals are due to trade a guy named Billy Fleischwater, and they're going to get the next Otani for him. They're
Well,
just due.
we're due. Well, when we traded Bader to we traded Bader and we
The
got
Yankees.
Yeah, and we got Montgomery.
Yeah.
Well, Bader was in a cast, and we were like, I can't believe this. Well, then Montgomery come over, did a really good job the half of that season he was with us, and then the next year he was really good too. And Bader was like a playoff superstar. They loved him in New York. They loved him so much they got rid of him. He's been on two or three different teams now. I like Bader. When he was coming up, we thought, oh, this is going to be the center fielder of the future. But as time went on, he's really a fourth outfielder. And I was tickled to death that we got Montgomery, who now we trade and get Segis for. And sometimes you can't look at a trade for a while. Maybe Bader's going to be the next Willie Mays. I don't know. I don't think so. But yeah, but you know what I mean? And Edmund, I think, is going to have a nice career, and he's about to go to the next level in pay. That's another thing. And the Cardinals, everybody knows we're cheapos. We are cheapos, and we're going to pay Segis probably what Edmund was making 5 years ago and do that for a while. But I think the Segis kid, what they said was he's a hitter like Donovan with more power. Now, that may not translate, but I'm excited about this Segis kid. And I want to see Tommy Edman do good. I hope he's the MVP of the World Series. But I don't, I just, I enjoyed my time while he was here, and he's a heck of a player. He worked hard, and I just like his style. I'm a nurse, and at the VA, all the veterans come in, and when Tommy Edman's name would come up all these years, they would say, "Man, I love that kid. He plays the game the right way," and he does. And I'm going to miss him, but it's going to be fun watching him in the World Series, and I hope he hits 400. And the power surprised me, but they're pitching around. They're going to try to pitch around Otani and Betts and Freeman, and if Freeman can play, and these guys like Edman is going to have situations where if they come through, it's going to be big. So that's going to be
Yeah.
fun.
Well, it gives them some versatility, the Dodgers, if they feel like they can get something for Gavin Lux. Yeah. Oh, it's the time to switch to the Dodger
Yeah,
hat.
we're talking Dodgers, so I put my Dodger hat on. I'm flip flopping. That's me. I'm a flip flopper.
So, yeah, if the Dodgers decide to ship off Gavin Lux for some more pitching or whatever, they've got Edmund who can play second base.
Right.
He can play shortstop. Um, really don't need him in the outfield, but he can play the outfield if there's injury. Um, he's a good player to have on that team. He's a good player to have on any team.
Oh
But
yeah.
I think the Dodgers were not looking for a playoff run by Edmund. I think they were looking in the future. This is an option we're going to have if Gavin Lux does not pan out. Looks like he's panning out. He may not be what they thought he was going to be, but he looks like he's going to be a pretty solid, good major league player. If we need a shortstop, he's there. Um, third base, he can play some. He can just play anywhere on the diamond.
Great bunter too. That's kind of a dying art. And I just thought, oh, Edmund's such a good bunter. And he's fast enough he can leg out some hits that way too.
Yeah, yeah. So the Dodgers go to the World Series. Surprise, surprise. And an even less of a surprise is that the Yankees beat the Guardians 4-1. I thought the Guardians gave the Yankees everything they could,
I agree.
but if the only thing that's going to sink the Yankees or the Dodgers against lesser teams like the Mets and the Guardians is going to be if they have a team slump. And that does happen in baseball. It happens to even great teams. But if everything's even, the Yankees have way too much talent, and they did. And the Yankees are pretty healthy right now, which they haven't been the whole season. So I I thought the Guardians didn't just show up and get pounded. They were competitive, but the Yankees are just so much better. And I, I'm ambivalent towards this guy. I've never been a fan. I've never disliked him. He's just been a guy. But after all these years of battling injuries, and trying to get into the lineup on a consistent basis. I was happy to see Giancarlo Stanton come up big and win the MVP of that series. And what I really liked was the way he wasn't reveling in that. He said, "We've got work to do." This is an older player who's been around for a while who understands how precious it is to get to the World Series. He may never, no matter how good the team is, you may never get the chance again. And he is laser focused. I want a championship before I retire. And he showed up like a man on a mission.
Yes. Looking back before we go on and talk World Series a little bit later, the Guardians, Stephen Voigt, what a great story. He just was a player not long ago. Now he's done a heck of a job, and he went with his formula and it just didn't work. And the Yankees are the all powerful being the Yankees. But they got to their bullpen, and and two, the Yankees weren't going to let Ramirez or Naylor beat them, and they really kept them in check. Although
Yeah, they
Quan stepped up, and some of the other guys stepped up as well. That big Noel kid in right field, he looked like the first baseman from the movie when they were major leagues. He looked like Serrano, and when he hit a ball, it went. But and they've had injuries too with their starters. But the Yankees were just too much. But a tip of the cap to the Guardians. What a season. And the Mets. The Mets one and the Indians or Guardians were the second seed, but the Mets barely got in. It looked in June, I think it looked desperate, and they came on. It came together. And just made the right moves and formed as a team, and they were exciting. Got in on the last day, had to go through the extra round, and made it all the way up to the NLCS. So, congratulations for the Mets too. What a season! And man, I'm glad I'm glad if the Cardinals had ran into them in the first round, we would have been home in about 2 days. So,
yeah,
good for them.
I know the Mets are not your favorite team.
Well, it's
They're
because
not my favorite.
what it is if they've got a good player, seems like the press makes them a great player. And if we've got a good player, they're just okay. If Ozzie Smith had played for the Mets, they'd have a statue next to the Statue of Liberty of Ozzie out there. But he's in St. Louis, so he's just he's very good, but he's not as good as this guy or whatever. That's my big thing on the Mets and the Yankees. They just build their players up to the stratosphere.
Well, I, I'm not a big fan of the Mets either, and it's the hangover from the Mets of the '80s who were so
Hockey.
easy to not like. Let's put it that way, obnoxious. Um, but I was really rooting for this team
Same here.
because I felt like what the Mets fan had been through um, going into last year when they thought they had this super studded team that was going to win 110 games, and it fell apart really quick. They kind of picked up the pieces and quietly just kept themselves relevant. And then the last day they made the playoffs, and then boom, took off. And I said this last week. I love that Vientos, the third baseman. I knew who he was. I had never really focused on him, but gosh, that guy's a gamer. He's talented, and he seems to be a very uh, competitive, focused human being. So I think they've got someone that's going to be there for quite a long time. A lot of people think that Alonso is going to be a future cup. I don't want Alonso. I have my reasons, and I'll go through that during the off season. Um, but I was really happy to watch this team, and I was really happy to watch the Guardians make it as far as they did. I did have the Guardians winning the pennant in the American League because I've become accustomed to the Yankees underperforming in the playoffs, and I think a lot of people have, especially in New York, over the past 20 years. The Yankees, whew, they seem to start sliding somewhere, and sometimes it's when they get in the playoffs, they start sliding. So, um, and also besides Stanton, Juan Soto, need I say more? Why I want him so bad on the Cubs? Guy's walked more times than he struck out in his career. He's only 25. Um, he's got the second best OPS in baseball since he started playing. He is just a hitting machine. Not the greatest right fielder in the world, but man, he makes up for it because he knows how to get on base. He knows how to hit pitchers' mistakes. He's got such a great eye. Um, you and I never saw Ted Williams play, and he, always reported, how he had such a great eye. And I think Juan Soto has that. I think he's got that kind of eye that can see right out of the pitcher's hand what's coming, and he can either lay off or he can hack at it, whichever one where he perceives. You just don't see him get fooled much. Seems to know what he's doing out there. So we got a World Series. We got the Mets, or we got the Dodgers. We got the Yankees. Um, if you would have asked me before the season, I would have said I don't want to see this, but I do think after the season, after all the press of Ohtani going to the Dodgers, Yamamoto going to the Dodgers, uh, Judge having the year he had last year, Soto being in the news, um, uh, Garrett Cole coming back. I do think it's good for baseball to have this kind of talent it making it to the World Series. I think that's going to draw a lot of eyeballs to the sport that normally wouldn't watch it. And I know without beyond a shadow of a doubt, worldwide, this is going to be the most watched World Series in baseball history because you've got all those Asian fans who are going to be watching a star like Ohtani. You have all these fans in the Caribbean nations who are going to be watching your Juan Soto's. And you got all these fans who want to see this freak in center field, this 6'7" freak who can hit the ball a ton out there. And you know what else? Hey, that guy Stanton, he's not that bad if he's healthy. But I'm very excited. Anthony Rizzo, a gamer playing with fingers that are still broken, is going to go to his second World Series. And I would like to see Rizzo get another World Series ring. It was time for him to go. Um, he hasn't been the Anthony Rizzo with the Cubs since he left the Cubs because he was getting older. He's going to be injured more. Bat slows down a bit. But in a star-studded team where he doesn't have to carry the team, he's a great player to have, a great complimentary player, and he is great in the dugout. He's been everybody's favorite teammate who has played with him. And once more, the Yankees, the players love him. And now he can bring to the Yankees a team. He's got him, Soto, but there's not a whole lot on that team that has been this far who can say, listen, guys, this is what it's going to be like. I've been here before. I've done this. Me and Juan, we've done this. We know how this is going to go. And that's going to be a big help in that clubhouse. And you're facing a Dodger team where a lot of players have been to the World Series and won the World Series. So it's going to be interesting.
You know, you were talking about Rizzo playing and showing heart and having those hurt fingers. You got to give Freddie Freeman a lot of love too. You can tell he's in agonizing pain with that ankle or foot, and he's just hobbling, and he still can hit. Freddie Freeman, you wake him up after an all-night drunk, and he'll still go 2 for 5 or something like that. He's such a good hitter. But I want to, I'm going to give the Cubs some love. When you guys made your decision that you're going to go in a different direction and moved a lot of the players that because your fans and teams fall in love with the guys that been there and done it or put up big numbers, and you made some moves, and it looks like now with a little space between that year they made the move and decided we're going to get rid of these guys and go with and get prospects and stuff. It looks like it's been a great move. Nothing against Bryant and Rizzo and Fowler and some of these other guys, but looking back now, I think you got the most out of them, and you got some good returns for them. So excellent choice. At the time, you never know if it was a good move or not, but it turned out to be excellent time. Sometimes we hang on to guys just a little too long. But I
Yeah.
tell you what, the guy I'm watching in this playoffs World Series that I think could be a determining factor is Will Smith. I think he's a phenomenal catcher, one of the best in baseball, and he does a great job defensively, but he's also a pretty good hitter. Hasn't done it so far in the postseason, and I think he's just due. So keep an eye on Will Smith with the Dodgers. I think he could be a breakthrough kind of thing like Edmund did for him in the playoffs.
Yeah, and for the Yankees, I like DJ Jazzy Jeff. I think he's going to be,
Oh, yeah. Well, he'll let you know he's out there playing for sure.
every time you mention Will Smith on this, I bite my tongue. I'm going to make the obvious joke. I'm not going to make the obvious joke. I finally cracked. Made the obvious joke. So, who do you got winning this, the Mets or the Dodgers?
Oh, Vince, I'm the wrong person to ask. Vegas
Yankees and
has
the
the
Dodgers.
Dodgers. Yeah, at the beginning of the year, we knew this was a big possibility. We just didn't want to see it happen. I remember both of us bad mouthing the Dodgers. Oh, you just go out and spend $1 billion, and Glasnow was another guy they picked up. Yeah, I mean, who's going to beat this team? And they had a lot of injuries, and they got here. You got a great coach. Both teams got good coaches that played in the big leagues. Vegas has the Dodgers minus 130 to win it. I just think the Dodgers bullpen is phenomenal, but I kind of like the Yankee starters. Both of them have murderer rows in the middle, like the three really incredible Hall of Fame type guys, and then the rest of the teams. I'm going to go Yankees. I'm going to go Yankees.
I'm going to go Yankees too because I like with the starting. I'll let you get your hat on
Yeah, let me get my. I'm going back the other way. I'm flip flopping again.
with the starting rotation. They can reset and have Cole and Rodon go, and I just think their pitching is going to be the determining factor. I'm not going to be surprised if the Dodgers win. I'm just giving the Yankees a slight edge at this time.
And I want to see Flaherty do good, but seems like in the big moments, sometimes it's tough. I don't want to say nothing negative. I try to be positive and everything. I hope he throws two no hitters, but I don't see it happening. And that Schmidt kid for the Yankees is a pretty good pitcher as well. So
Yeah.
I gotta give the edge there. It's gonna be great. Now Dodgers have home field advantage. They go 7. They got the first 2 and the last 2, but that doesn't seem to matter. I don't know. They're good everywhere they play.
Did you see this Luke Weaver thing coming?
No, he was in the Cardinals. We came up through our system, and that's another Cardinal one. But he he's been with several teams, and with us, he had a losing record, but he showed promise. But I think we moved him in the Goldschmidt trade. I think he was a piece of that Goldschmidt trade, which I would have made that trade still today. I know he was over there. I did not know they were going to make him closer, and he's done a great job. So, no, I did not see this happening, and good for him. Seems to be a nice kid.
I've seen this happen with the Brewers with McGill, who closed out for the Brewers when um, Williams was down, and Estrada, who closed out a lot of the games in San Diego. I watched these two guys with great arms, but I did not see this coming. And I was just wondering if you saw this Luke Weaver thing coming.
Leiter, the ex Cub, wasn't even on the roster, and somebody got hurt. They brought him in, and he pitched a heck of a inning or two there. So baseball's a crazy game. Baseball's a crazy game, and I don't know. I'm just a fan. If I knew a lot, they'd have me up there in the office making trades and drafting people. But we're just like everybody else. We just got a big love for the game.
What's going on in Cardinal land? Anything?
Oh, yeah, you know what? We do have today, 13 years ago. This is the anniversary. Do you remember what happened today, 13 years ago? Perhaps.
Gosh, I think the
This
Rangers won the World Series.
this was the day that Albert Pujols hit the 3 home runs. He hit the 3 home runs in Game 3 in Texas.
I think the Texas won. Didn't they sweep that World Series 4 games to
No,
nothing?
no,
Pujols,
we had a miracle.
Pujols won 1 for 21. How I
Well,
remember it.
yes, and this is also in my life. I know I'm supposed to watch every Cardinal game. but I actually listened to the end of it on the radio because I was down in Lake of the Ozarks meeting I'm sorry, Kevin Von Erich. I was down at the wrestling
If
match
you were
meeting
meeting
Kevin Von Erich.
on Eric, you went in the Ozarks, you were in heaven, dude.
I was on LSD is what I was on if I met David. No, it was Kevin. And so when me and Thomas J, who sponsors my baseball cards every week, we came out, we turned the radio on. Who's winning? Who's winning? And they said Pujols just hit his third home run, and we were like, "What the heck? 3 home runs in a game? That's phenomenal!" So this is the anniversary of that day, and man, Albert Pujols, what a player! Now, in Cardinal news, some of the stories: Willie McGee has stepped down as the coach on the Cardinals, and he has moved to an advisory role with the team. I don't know if that means showing up at spring training and helping. Man, that's a grind. Being with the major league team, and I mean, you start in February and you end in October, and I'm sure there's other things going on those other months. And John Jay will take his place with the coaching staff. So another ex-Cardinal, he's back. He was working with Skip Schumacher down in Florida, so he's back with the Cardinals again as a coach. And I know Willie was with the outfielders mainly, so John Jay will come out there and work with the outfielders. And then earlier in the year, the Cardinals let the hitting coach Turner Ward go. We were the 22nd in offense last year, and they hired a guy named Brant Brown for the new hitting coach. And he's been in the big leagues for 7 years and been a part of the Dodgers. The year they won the World Series in that COVID year, he was on the coaching staff there. He's been with the Florida Marlins and the Seattle Mariners. I don't know a whole lot about this guy. I had just read that today, but we have a new hitting. Oh, you know a lot about him. Okay. Well, give me the lowdown on Brant Brown.
Former Cub Brant Brown. Yes, he was I believe he's a left-handed hitter, played left field, and he had a pretty good stroke. Um, but Brant Brown is in Cub lore. Um, it would be he would be Steve Bartman if the Cubs wouldn't have rebounded and secured the wild card spot in '98. But in '98, we're playing the Brewers, and if we win this game, there's like 3 games left of the season. We win this game, we clinch a wild card spot. And the final out of the game, there's a runner on, and I don't remember quite the situation. I was listening to it on the radio. Fly ball to left field, can of corn. Cubs are going to go to the playoffs, and Pat Hughes, and there's a fly ball to Brown, and he drops the ball, and he's doing the game with Ron Santo. You don't hear Santo at all. You don't. And Patty, oh, he dropped the ball. Oh, yeah. It's like, oh, and I'm like driving like, gosh, we're finding another way to blow this. So we did rebound to win. But the story is um, Pat Hughes is making the call and he's talking about him dropping the ball. And he dropped. And he realizes that Santo hasn't said a thing. And he looks over and Santo's just got his head on the table.
Oh my gosh.
So I nothing against the guy. He dropped the ball in a big spot. That has nothing to do with can he be a hitting coach or not. I'm just saying I know who the guy is. They have his history as the Cub. I had no problem with him as a player, but he was. If even today, if you listen to a Cub game on the radio and they do the opening, that's one of the calls in the opening, and he drops the ball.
And that's good thing he's not coaching outfielders. He's doing the hitting. So that's one good thing. And that's another piece of the Cardinal Cub history. We've got so many players and coaches that have went back and forth between the two teams. So okay, I wish him well. We need him, and we got to be better than we were driving in runs with runners in scoring position. So I'm glad to see some new blood up there, and let's see what happens. So that's Cardinal news right there.
In Cubs news, really one thing to announce: Nico Horner had surgery to fix a flexor tendon in his right arm. And apparently that was bothering him down the stretch. He got hot as far as hitting goes, but you couldn't see it. in his fielding. He fielded fine, but there was rumors that he was having some injury problems. Well, he had that surgery. It's going to be about a 6 month recovery. Not sure if he's going to be ready. But a lot of the Cub fans are asking this, and I think it's a legitimate question. Yeah, we were hanging on by a thread going into the last week, but we had too many teams to overcome. We wasn't going to make it. Why didn't we just shut him down and let him get the surgery ASAP, make sure he's back by spring training, bring up Mike Shaw, let him play the final week, and let's see what we got with our number one prospect. Um, why did we let Nico Horner continue to play in this week when things were basically, you know, they probably did it because if they would have said, okay, we're shutting him down, bringing up Mike Shaw, the fans, oh, they're giving up, they're giving up. But I'm kind of a realist. I realize it's not just that you're so many games behind. It's you had to jump over some teams, and the teams you had to jump over, you're going to have to win by one because they had the tiebreakers. So the chances were almost nil that we were going to make it. So I think that's a legitimate question because I would have liked to see Mike Shaw that last week because I've heard so much about him and I've seen a few of the minor league games where he's played. But you watch a minor league telecast. I don't know if you watch too many of them.
Not a
Not the
whole lot.
greatest. Most of them are in standard definition, not high definition. They don't have very many camera people, so you don't have all the angles, all the shots. It's almost kind of like watching a high school game from the stands or something. So I would have liked to have seen them bring up Shaw and see what he could do, see what he looked like, see if he was overmatched, whatever. But it's really not that big of a deal. So nothing going on in Cubs news. Aside from that, the Cubs are going to be staying home watching the World Series.
Vince, it's the end of the year, and the Cubs and the Cardinals, we're done. And I'm kind of depressed. And this playoffs keep me occupied without really realizing that it's over. But once this World Series is over, I'll kind of, I've kind of set in for a month there, sad. But then they'll have the awards, and then the winter meetings, and then we'll start getting ready for 2025, and I'll be back in action again. But I kind of go through a little lull there after our final out of the final game.
Well, if you're going through a little bit of depression because of this, what would really help that depression?
Listening to Jeremy Connor.
Listen to Jeremy Connor. That will recenter your needle. Comes a time in every man's life when he needs some advice on relationships. You need to listen to the podcast DMDR, which stands for Dating, Marriage, Divorce, Remarriage, from my good friend Jeremy Connor, the Dr. Phil of the Boot Hill. You can find DMDR on Spotify or whatever platform you choose to listen to your podcast. All right. The Yankees and the Dodgers have quite a storied history as far as meeting each other in the World Series. And I did not realize this. I knew that the Dodgers were a bad organization for most of the first 40 years that they were around. But the Yankees and the Dodgers did not meet in the World Series until 1941. And since then, they met in 41, 47, 49, 52, 53. Oh, more pages to go. 55, 56, 63, 77, 78, and 81. They've met a few times since then. So what JJ and I are going to do, we're going to kind of look at the history of their World Series meetings and uh, kind of see how each one of the series went. Um, and do remember that up until the late 50s, this was a city World Series because the Dodgers were in Brooklyn. The Yankees were the Yankees? Are they in Queens or Manhattan? I don't know
I think the Mets are in Queens, and the Yankees are in Manhattan.
Okay, something like that. So anyway, our resident New Yorker who watches, let us know.
Yeah. Mark, I'm on it.
So anyway, so the first time the Yankees and Dodgers met in the World Series was 1941. JJ, do you remember listening to that on your Philco radio?
No, I was smoke signals. They were setting up smoke signals. That's how I knew. But 41 is always the magical year too. 41 was the year I always looked for greatness. That was the year that Williams hit 406, and that's also the year DiMaggio had the 56 game hitting streak. And so that was the talk of the land right there. And baseball was king. And you had the Yankees coming in there. And what I know about the Yankees and Dodgers was the Yankees, as a kid, I was aware of baseball in 73. The Dodgers always drafted pitchers and had like the cream of the crop pitchers and had a great, a lot of rookies of the year. And the Yankees, although they had some good players come up too, it seems like they were always the free agent team, went out and got the big free agent. So if you look at these World Series that we're going to look through, a lot of stars in these World Series and a lot of big moments that are iconic moments in baseball history happen with these two teams. Vince, like you said, I think this is going to be a big draw. Not only if you didn't have all these international players, you still have New York City and Los Angeles, California. And I've heard some of the names for this battle is Broadway versus Hollywood, Subway versus Freeway, Judge versus Otani. It's called the Payroll series, some people are saying. Goliath versus Goliath, and East versus West. So that's some of the little tags I've seen in papers and things like that. So man, but get back to 1941. What a series. That was the I believe the Yankees won that in 5 games. Red Ruffing pitched a complete game. You don't see that these days. And Tommy Hendricks was the second baseman, Bill Dickey. Joe Gordon was on that team. But the thing I read about, I did not know this, there was a pass ball in game 3. The Dodgers had the game 1, a pass ball. The guy gets on first base, a couple doubles, and the Yankees end up winning. And if the Dodgers had won that, it would have been, I think the Dodgers would have been up 2-1. So maybe that changed the whole series. You know, sometimes one big play can change everything. But a lot of iconic players. And here's 2 names for you, Vince, that will grab you. The New York Yankees Hall of Fame manager at the time was Joe McCarthy. That year he was 101 and 53. And the Dodgers coach was Leo DeRocher, Leo the Lip, longtime piece of in baseball history. I think he was on the Monsters TV show. They were 154, so they were the 2 cream of the crop teams. And the Dodgers had Billy Herman, and Joe Ducky Medwick was on that team, and Pee Wee Reese. So they had 3 Hall of Famers as well on that team too. So that's all I got to say about that series. Incredible, an iconic moment, a lot of Hall of Famers, and that was the first time we saw the Yankees and Dodgers, and that was just the beginning.
That was the beginning. The next time they would meet in the series was 1947. The Yankees won 4 games to 3, and the Yankees jumped out to a 2-0 series lead. And then it went to Brooklyn, and that's when it got a little more interesting. Uh, DiMaggio and Berra in the game 3 in Brooklyn hit home runs, but the Dodgers held off and hung on for a victory. And that was kind of at this time it was still looked at as the Yankees and the Dodgers. You know, Yankees were up here. So after getting squashed in their first World Series appearance, 5, 6 years later, they're meeting again with this comeback win after going home game 3 and having being tagged by DiMaggio and Barrett and the Dodgers rebounding and winning that game. It was kind of the boost that the Dodgers needed. And then the series became a slugfest. And DiMaggio had a big series. This was the first year that Jackie Robinson was on a World Series team. Um, and came down to game 7. And in game 7, the Yankees won 5-2, uh, having their second World Series trophy over their crosstown rivals. And it was still a situation where the Dodgers were like, we're the little brother, and we're still trying to reach this great team. To put in perspective, for their whole existence up until the 40s in New York, it was kind of like the way it was the Cardinals and the Browns, or the Cubs and the White Sox, or the Red Sox and the Braves. There was always one team that was looked at as the superior organization and the other team fighting that. And that's why the series was so important because the Dodgers were that little redheaded stepchild that's trying. Is that even politically correct to say anymore? I don't think so.
Oh, I don't know.
But they were that little bald-headed biological child, I'll put it that way, then that was just trying to get to those heights. So uh, two World Series, two Yankee victories. And do you think it was tough to go around New York? Because the players lived in the towns at those
Oh
times.
yeah, definitely.
So they'd see each other at social events and stuff. And so there was a lot of real bragging rights that went on. And the rivalry was a lot more biting than it is today. Players are chummy and everything. These organizations generally did not like each other.
And that also 47 was the year Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier, and he goes all the way to the World Series. Of course, rookie of the year and all that. And added to that team of great Dodger players, Gil Hodges, Duke Schneider is now a part of the Dodger organization, and Archie Vaughn, who is a Hall of Famer. He was with the Pirates for a long time, was kind of finishing up his career with the Dodgers and was a big piece of the puzzle. But they had a pitcher named Ralph Branca with the Yankees that was 21-12 that year, and he was a guy who you throw him out there, you go 7-8 innings every time. But the Dodgers are starting to make a little headway now after being getting beat up a lot. Especially in the press. It seemed like the Dodgers embraced that bums, the Brooklyn bums with the cigar and the little you don't can't say wife beater anymore, but the little you know undershirt. See, Vince looks at me like I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I do. I think they're called A shirts. I think that's yeah,
A
it's
shirts. Oh,
not a
okay.
T-shirt. It's an A shirt. So
Oh, okay. All right. But you would see the guys with the cigar and that shirt with the unshaven and yelling and stuff. Even the pennants had that on the Brooklyn Bums and stuff like that. They kind of embraced that. They liked it. So, but they were coming. They were getting better and getting some stars at that point.
well, the next time they met in 40 was in 49, 2 years later. Tell us about that series.
You know what? I wrote so much information down, but I skipped ahead to 52. Let me see if I got 49 in here. Vince, 52. I just have the Yankees winning 4-3 again, and I do not have much. I have so much information down, but I don't have that one down. So I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Well, 49 was a laugher. The Yankees won 4 games to 1. Uh, the series started at Yankee Stadium, where both teams had 1-0 victory when it returned to Evans Field, and then the Yankees really took off. Um, the, uh, the funny thing about the series is Yogi Berra in a winning effort was 1 for 16. Joe DiMaggio was 2 for 18, but
Wow.
DiMaggio did hit a home run in the final game 5, which was a 10-6 victory for the Yankees. So even when the Yankees weren't playing up to their best, they still crushed Brooklyn. They were just a better team and a better organization. So what happened in 52?
Well, 52. This is, I think of the 50s as the golden era of baseball. I don't know. It was on top. Uh, Baseball, they played, it's still 154 games, not the 162 like we have now. Teams stayed together because you only could trade players, no free agency for better or worse. But I kind of like the 50s. A lot of stars in the 50s. In the 52 World Series, that was the one where the Yankees won 4-3. But now we're starting to see those great rivalries. The teams are really building. And this is the first World Series where we had Billy Martin, Johnny Mize, and Mickey Mantle is now a part of this team. So look out. They really got their stars together. And one of the new players for the Dodgers was Joe Black, who was a big player for them through the years as well. But other than the games, that's really all I know on the 52 World Series. Vince, do you have a lot of details on that one?
Well, the Dodgers won the first game, and then they were trading off victories, and it's 3-3 going into the final game. Um, and the Yankees won. Mantle hit 345 with two homers. Berra had two homers. Listen to Johnny Mize, 6 for 15, three home runs, six RBIs. So this is our fourth World Series between the Dodgers and the Yankees, and the Dodgers still cannot beat the Yankees. So let's see what's going to happen in 1953. Is this the year of the
50.
Dodgers?
No,
No,
but
no.
it was a great World Series. And all these World Series is the Dodgers and Yankees have met up as much as the Celtics and the Lakers. So this is just a great rivalry. But in '53, this is the 50th anniversary of the World Series. The Yankees win their fifth straight World Series title, and it's a record to this day, five in a row. Billy Martin was the World Series MVP. Uh, Casey Stengel is now the manager of the team, and they went 99 and 52. And the Dodger manager is Chuck Dreesen, and they go 105 and 49. But now we see Whitey Ford, who some say is the greatest big game pitcher ever. He's now a piece of the team, part of the team. And the Dodgers have Roy Campanella, the great catcher, and Dick Williams, who later becomes a great manager. Yes, Dick Williams. I was thinking him with the Oakland A's. Was he a Cub? It seems like all these guys eventually ended up with the Cubs at one
I
time
think
or
so.
another. Okay, so Dick Williams is on that team, and but again, the Yankees win in six, 4 games to 2 over the Dodgers. That's all I really have on that series. You got any particulars on that one?
Yeah, Mantle had two home runs and seven RBIs in the series. Berra hit 429 for the series and had four RBIs. And it's just that era where the Yankees were dominant until 1955 hit. In 55, under the leadership of DeRocher, the Brooklyn Dodgers finally win the only World Series in Brooklyn Dodger history. They win it over the Yankees 4 games to 3. The home teams won each of the first 6 games of the series before the Dodgers bucked the trend in Game 7 with a 2-0 victory in Yankee Stadium. Gil Hodges drove in both runs in that game, but Duke Snyder carried the load for the series with 4 homers and 7 RBIs. And the Dodgers finally got the monkey off their back, and Brooklyn celebrated. 55, their first World Series championship. So when you think of trends, the Dodgers have always been good. No, the Dodgers being good, the Dodgers were bad for 50 years before they were good. So um,
Yeah,
that's the way life is sometimes.
but the Yankees, and far back as I can to the roots, they've been really good. They've had a few breaks, 81 to, I don't know, somewhere in the late mid 90s. They had a little break in there. They were just okay. And then here lately, they've been good, but couldn't quite get over the hump. 55, what I remember of that World Series, that's the one where the famous Jackie Robinson, where he's dancing off third base and he takes off and steals home. And him and Yogi Berra, it's like bang, bang at the plate. And Yogi Berra, to the day he died, swears Jackie Robinson was out at the plate. Every time he'd see him or through life, he would say, you were out. And Jackie would say, I was safe. That's just the thing they did. But that's a real iconic moment. If you see highlights of the World Series, you're going to see the Kirk Gibson home run. You're going to see, Willie Mays running, catching it over his shoulder. And you'll see that Jackie Robinson steal of home plate in the World Series. But new pieces of the puzzle for the Dodgers that year, Walter Alston became a big part of the team. Sandy Koufax, a 19-year-old Sandy Koufax, has now entered the major leagues. Now, it took him a few years before he became the dominant Sandy Koufax, but he had all the talent in the world. Uh, uh, Tommy Lasorda, Lasorda became, he was a player on the team, and Roger Craig, who I remember as a manager, but he was a big league player, and Don Newcomb became a player, and Zimmer. became a player. So a lot of future coaches were on those teams back in the 50s, and that was the third time they met in just 4 years. That's pretty incredible right there. You don't see that these days.
Well, tell us about the 56 World Series. Will the
Well,
Yankees get their revenge?
the Yankees come back and win in seven, 4-3. Um, what I have down there in 56, this was the famous and another iconic moment in World Series history. Game five, Don Larson throws the perfect game. Perfect games was one of the rarest feats in Major League Baseball. I think what is that when you have a triple play where you're the only person involved? That's the rarest. And then I think the perfect game is next. Um, that happened in game five. He was also the MVP of the World Series and got a brand new Corvette, a 56 Corvette. That's pretty sharp. New players to both the legendary teams, the Yankees, Hank Bauer, uh, Don Larson, and the great Enos Slaughter was a member of the 56 Yankees. So he left the Cardinals and went out there. And of course, on the radio, everybody's going, the Cardinals let somebody go and they become the greatest player ever. No, I'm teasing. I love Enos Slaughter. And Rube Walker was a part of the Dodgers, and Jim Gillum, who later became a coach on the teams in the later in the 80s. We'll see him show up as one of the coaches, but he was and Carl Esquivel, the pitcher, became a part of the Dodger team for many years. So 56, that was the great year where the Yankees took it right back. But that is 4 World Series in 5 years that the Dodgers and Yankees met, and the Yankees won 3 of them there in the 50s.
And then in 58, the Dodgers broke Brooklyn's heart and they moved to Los Angeles. And
Yeah.
the Giants moved to San Francisco. So,
I seen a video of I've seen documentaries on the Dodgers moving, and that really had a impact on that community. You seen the wrecking ball coming through and people crying and everything, and they love that team. It's sad that they moved, but I understand progress, and California was just all kind of bright, new, and shiny, and it seemed to have worked, turned out for the best, I guess.
and the thing about the Brooklyn Dodgers is the players tended to live in Brooklyn. They were in the neighborhood. They were citizens. These were people that you would see at the diner. Um, it was a very tight-knit community that was centered around their baseball team. So when they moved out, it the only thing that's analogous that I can think of is if the Cubs players all lived in Wrigleyville and then they moved out.
Oh,
Um, there are still people alive today, old timers who remember the Dodgers being in Brooklyn and still long for those days. And they, they didn't have to move. It- the, could they support three major league teams? They had. The Giants had been relevant. The Dodgers had been relevant. The Yankees had been dominant. They all had their following. And it was kind of one of the things that defined New York City at the time. Where you lived, you had your baseball team. I mean, we have, I live in St. Louis, and everybody within 200-mile radius are Cardinal fans, I guess. And then I'm a Cub fan, but people who live in Chicago and that radius are, yeah. These were neighborhood teams that defined their neighborhood. So it was really crushing when the Dodgers left Brooklyn and the Giants left. They moved out to the West Coast. So the next time they met in the World Series was 1963. And this is when the Yankees are starting to get a little long in the tooth. And the Dodgers have that great pitching anchored by Sandy Koufax in his prime and Don Drysdale. They swept the Yankees, and the Yankees managed only 4 runs in the 4 games. Uh, Koufax tossed a complete game in both the opener and the clincher. Um, Drysdale also threw a shutout in game 3, and it really was no contest. And it was apparent at this time that the power had shifted and the Yankees were on their way down. They made the World Series again in '64 and lost to the Cardinals. But the Yankees, that dynasty they had through the '20s, through the early '60s, that era completely ended by 1965, and you had the Yankees go through a decade where they just were not good. They weren't drawing. They weren't the Yankees. And it wasn't until Steinbrenner bought the team in '73 and they made the playoffs in '76 that the Yankees really became the Yankees again. So the next time they don't meet in the World Series again until 1977. And this is the first World Series that I remember as a kid, although JJ had watched all the previous World Series on his Philco TV.
Yeah.
So he's just like 2 years older than me. Okay, it's not like him. Tell us about that '77 World Series.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Coronation. It
Oh,
shouldn't be the coronation, just a great postseason career. The apex of Mr. October's postseason career happened in '77.
you're right. Free agency is talking about the history of baseball, 74. So, and here comes Mr. Steinbrenner, George Steinbrenner, and he used free agents. Seemed like every winter you'd hear the top one or two players, they're going over to the Yankees, and they put together a powerhouse team. But the Dodgers, if you remember those days, they built their team. Their infield was together for 10 years. You could almost go, Yeager, Garvey, Lopes, Russell, Say, and a lot of the outfielders that were the same guys through those 10 years. But the Yankees here, they were like hired killers. They came in, and that's the year where, Reggie, he was he says himself, the straw that stirred the drink. And in game six, he hit 3 home runs off of 3 different Dodger pitchers. And that was the deciding game two, because in '77 it went 6 games and the Yankees won 4-2. Um, Reggie was just built for New York. It seems like it was a perfect marriage. He came up through the Oakland A's organization, spent a little part of a year with Baltimore, and then went over to the Yankees, and he just fit in. But part of the allure of this team was it was so combustible. You didn't know if Munson and Jackson was going to get into it, or Billy Martin, and I believe that was the year, one of those years where he called them off the field, and then they almost get in a fight in the dugout. It was the Bronx Zoo. Uh, but some of the stars of that team, and Steinbrenner and Catfish Hunter, Bobby Cox, the great Bobby Cox, manager of the Atlanta Braves, was the first base coach of that 1977 team. I didn't know that until I did all this research. Yogi Berra was one of the coaches. You had Reggie Jackson and Mickey Rivers and Chambliss, and I don't know if I just know all these names because I lived through all this, but Bucky Dent, big part of the organization, and Lou Piniella and Ron Guidry and Sparky Lyle. And of course, on the other side, you had the great Don Sutton, the Hall of Famer, and Dusty Baker, who a lot of folks know him as a manager, but he was a heck of a player too, and been a big part of baseball for many, many years. Rick Rhoden was one of the pitchers on the team, and the Dodgers always had pitching. And man, that was just a heck of a World Series, star-studded, and that right there. And TV was, the World Series on TV, they really had it down with the graphics and the interviews and everything like that. So it just was for your imagination right there. And New York was going through some tough times financially too, so it kind of brought the city back a little bit too to have that World Series. So anyway, 1977, that was my recollections of it.
What I remember about that game six where Reggie hit 3 home runs, um, I don't remember who he hit the first one off of. The second one was Elias Sosa. I remember that. The third one came off Charlie Howe or Huh. I've heard him pronounce it. I've heard him pronounce it both ways. Knuckleballer. And I was 11 and I wasn't the smartest kid in the world, but man, I knew I thought, oh, he's not going to get a home run off a knuckleballer. And um, first pitch, a knuckleball, and he creamed it. So Sosa threw hard, we hit the second home run off of. So it was quite a contrast between the second and third home run. I do
And
remember that.
Bert Hooton was the first pitcher too.
Okay,
Yeah,
former Bird Hooton.
that's
So
right.
he had such a special game, and he's running off the field. He had to wear a batting helmet. He forearm shivers one guy down. The guy tried to sue and all this other stuff. Um, they don't allow that kind of crap to happen at games anymore. But um, the '75 World Series was the first one I paid attention to. That classic Reds Red Sox one, and I thought every World Series was going to be that exciting. The '76 World Series was a dud. The Reds just went out and dominated the Yankees, and the Yankees said, "Okay, we need something else. Let's go get Reggie Jackson." So '77, um, it kind of became a big deal. You know, it wasn't just the Reds dominating. It was a great World Series that the Yankees won. And so they decided, let's do this again in '78. Same result. Yankees win 4 games to 2. Uh, Bucky Dent went completely crazy. In the final game, he went 3 for 4 with 3 RBIs, batting in the ninth spot. He won the series MVP. But what I remember about this World Series is game one in Dodger Stadium, Bob Welch pitching for the Dodgers, Reggie hitting. And I think it was like a 12 pitch, 13 pitch at bat. Reggie keeps fouling the ball off. And finally, Welch gets a strikeout. And then in that final game, the Yankees were already up, and yeah, it was pretty much almost won. But they bring in Welch again to face Reggie, and he homers off of him. But one thing I also remember about this, second baseman Willie Randolph, who after Munson died, he became the team captain of the Yankees. He was injured and he didn't play in this World Series, so they had a guy named Brian Doyle, not Brian Doyle Murray, Brian Doyle, to play second base. And his brother was more famous than him. His brother was Denny Doyle. So, you know, when your more famous brother is a backup outfielder for the Red Sox, nobody knew who this guy was. And I think he hit 400 for the World Series. This is amazing. Um, so the Yankees won again, 4 games to 2, and established dominance. Then in '79, the Orioles won the East, and then in
Pirates.
yeah, and then in '80, who was it that won the East in the '80? The American League East in the '80. I'm brain cramping out. But in '81, the Yankees make it to the World Series again against the Dodgers. Last time they played in the World Series, let us know how it went.
Oh yes, this was known. Another great moment, Fernando Mania. Fernando Venezuela was a guy before the season I never heard of. Vince, we don't have TV and the internet like we do now with all this information. And he came up, I believe, out of nowhere, and he won his first 8 starts. And Los Angeles was just in love with this guy. I was too. I love Fernando. And back then, the pitchers hit, and Fernando could hit too. This guy could hit, do everything. He was not a real athletic looking guy. He was a little pudgy, like myself, if I do say so. And what a athlete, what a pitcher. And that series, the Dodgers won. Now it was an odd year that year. That was the year they had a strike, so you had your first half champions versus your second half champions. So there was 4 teams in the playoffs in each league, and the Dodgers ended up going to the World Series against the Yankees and winning it 4-2. But some of the names on that, and this was an odd thing too. In the World Series that year, we had co MVPs. It's usually just one guy, but 3 guys shared the MVP that year. It was Ron Say, Pedro Guerrero, and Steve Yeager. So we had 3 MVPs to the World Series that year. Never has happened since. But some of the players on the Dodger side that just came into these these battles: Jerry Royce, Steve Howe, Fernando, Pedro Guerrero, Mike Scioscia, and Tom Niedenfuhr, who Cardinal fans will remember from later playoffs. And on the Yankee side, Oscar Gamble, uh, Mercer, Rick Russell was the on the Yankees that year. Bob Watson, my old pen pal right there. Dave Winfield, he was that player, like a Reggie player, that they thought, hey, we'll get Dave Winfield, and this will continue going for years and years. And Dave Righetti, who had a nice career in Major League Baseball, mainly as a reliever and a pitching coach. So a lot of big names, a lot of history there. And one thing I was going to say about 78, Goose Gossage, they already had Sparky Lyle in 77, but they went out and got Goose Gossage in 78. They had Lyle and Gossage in the World Series had 3 appearances and threw 6 innings. He was throwing 2 innings at a time, and I really thought he was going to be possibly the MVP. He had a heck of a World Series, and like you said, that Bob Welch, Reggie Jackson at bat is iconic. I think that's the greatest strikeout I've ever seen. 12 pitches, fastball versus the swinging for the fences, and it was. If you get a chance, watch it. It's mesmerizing. So many great moments, Vince, in these battles, and I just hope we get 7 games in this series, and we have a few iconic moments, and some of the greatest players of today's baseball is playing in this, and it should be fun.
I don't remember which TV show it was, if it was Solid Gold or what.
Ooh, solid gold.
But uh, there was like 4 or 5 players from the Dodgers. I think it was Yeager, Rick Monday. Um, gosh, who else? I don't remember, but they were on this TV show and they sang "We Are the Champions." It was a combination of bad and hokey, which equals nothing but cringe. Watching these guys do choreographed moves to singing "We Are the Champions," I thought, golly, your grandkids are going to see this. How embarrassing.
Hey, as long as the solid gold dancers are out there with me, I still do it.
Oh, well, that's the history, and that history is going to be extended over the next couple of weeks, starting Friday. And I wish both teams the best of luck. And I hope this is Juan Soto's last series as a Yankee before he is at the corner of Clark and Addison, hitting, hitting home runs and just
Oh man, he'll be the toast of the town.
yeah. I know we're not going to get him. We're not going to spend that much money.
I think the Mets might go jump in there. He could stay in New York. I know Mark would love that. And but he said he just seems like a Yankee.
Wait, he seems like a Cub.
Okay, he seems like a Cub too. All right.
I am opening 1992 Fleer.
Ooh, we're both going back in time. I am opening 1991 Upper Deck. Wait, Upper Deck right there.
The upper deck, yeah.
Yeah, right there. Like Mr. Juan Soto. All right. You want to go first, Vince? You go first.
Sure. I'll
Yeah.
go first.
Hey, how many Hall of Famers?
I'm going to say one Hall of Famer.
All right, because you said 1, I'm going to go 2 then.
Uh,
All right.
Plastic. I love wax packaging.
This is like aluminum foil, this one. Sponsored by Thomas J, may I add, my good friend and sponsor of my baseball card section.
Sponsored by Amazon. Amazon. When you need crap and you need it fast, Amazon. Former Cy Young Award winner, Blackjack McDowell.
Oh, yeah, he was great. Yeah,
Yeah.
Blackjack. Dominating for about 3 years.
Former outfielder for the Angels, Dave Gallagher, who was mad as hell.
And he's not going to take it anymore. I'll be darned.
Those of you who don't know the reference, Gallagher was that comic who smashed watermelons, and he had a special on Showtime called Gallagher's Mad as Hell. That's what former Cub, former Astro, former Diamondback, former steroid abuse. I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. Former guy who magically started hitting 50 home runs, Luis Gonzalez.
Luis Gonzalez. Yes.
Listen to these home run totals. Uh 13, 6, 5. He was never a home run hitter. And suddenly he's hitting 50.
Is
Uh
he like Arizona's all-time home run leader or
Probably
somebody? He's up there in the top two or three with one team.
there. Uh I've never heard of this guy. Third baseman for the Twins, Scott Leus.
Never
L-E-U.
heard of him.
All right. So
He looks like he's late on that swing.
yeah, that's why we never heard of it. I heard of this
He
guy.
probably in his high school Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Good career. Played with the A's, plays with the Cardinals at this time. Felix Jose.
Oh yeah, we thought he was going to be, you know, all-star kind of player.
Former Mariner pitcher, Brad Holman.
Don't know much about him.
Outfielder for the Expos. I do not remember this guy, Eric Bullock.
No. Uh,
Former first baseman for the Red Sox. Had a decent career, Carlos Quintana.
oh yeah. Okay.
Former pitcher for the Reds. Pitched for a while in the division, Scott Scudder.
I remember him. I couldn't tell you anything else about him though.
Former Yankee outfielder, Roberto Kelly.
Yes, like a fourth outfielder.
Yeah. Former Cub, former Padre, former Giant pitcher, uh, Craig Lefferts.
Okay.
Career highlight card, Roger Clemens. Striking out, went 24 and 4, struck out 238 batters, and did a lot of other crap that was probably pretty good.
Yeah.
Uh, Former third baseman for the Orioles, Craig Worthington.
I don't
And
know
beautiful
him.
cards. Look at
They are. I like that.
that. Former pitcher for the Braves, played on some of those playoff teams, Mike Stanton.
Yes. Here's their closer.
Uh, Former Brave, former Giant, former Cub, Mike Remlinger.
Okay. Starts with the Giants.
I finally got my Hall of Famer, former Oriole Randy Mulligan. Oh, wait a minute. He did not make the Hall of Fame somehow. Snub,
No, he
snub.
was snubbed.
I
Yes,
got
it's a
snub Hall of Famers. Even Roger Clemens is not in the Hall of Fame.
no, yeah, he didn't even make it. All right, I'm trying to get these all in the
So
right
you're
position here.
saying two.
Yeah, I'm saying two. I'm
All
going to
right.
go there. Okay, Cincinnati Red. Oh, now these upper decks were always known for the photography. This is a Cincinnati Red, Ron Oyster. Remember him?
Oh
Oyster.
yeah,
There he
Ron
is.
Oster.
Oster. I thought they named those crackers after him, oyster crackers, but I guess not. And then here's the back of the card. Also, a nice picture of the player on the back.
Yeah, he was kind of a slimy ball player.
oh, all right. Hey, I got a cup for you. I got a cup, not a Hall of Famer, and maybe a Hall of Very Good. Dave Smith of the Cubbies.
Dave Smith, yeah, had his
Looks
best
like,
years with the Astros.
now, see, they got him like in an interview right there. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's the Dave Smith from the Astros. Okay.
Yeah, he didn't. He was their closer in Houston, pitching in the Astrodome. Then he went to Wrigley, where he didn't have all that space, and those fly balls tended to go out of the park there. So,
Just ducked on out. All right, here's a guy. Now, here he is with Toronto, but I think of him as a New York Met. Mookie Wilson with Toronto Blue Jays.
oh
Right
yeah,
there.
yeah, everybody thinks
Yeah.
Mookie is the Met. Yeah,
Yeah. Those that iconic comeback and everything. I like this guy a lot. Now, here he is with Texas, but I think of him as a California Angel. Brian Downing, catcher and DH. Brian Downing. Look at that. Without a one knee and swinging there.
first steroid abuser.
Was he Downing? I didn't
Oh,
know
that's
that.
that's what I think.
Oh,
It's a
yeah. He
guy
had
who was a pudgy guy, played for the White Sox catcher, goes to California, and then one year just shows up all hulked up, and
all
suddenly
helped.
he's a hitter. And it's like, I didn't know at the time, but in hindsight, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's got to be like the first guy that I remember that just hulked up and suddenly was hitting good.
I remember he was kind of cool. He had sunglasses on all the time and out there playing. I was like, hey, that's a cool guy. Philadelphia Philly, I know this name, Bruce Ruffin. He had a nice career.
Yeah.
There he is with a bat in his hand, of all things. Oh, I always think of this guy when I was in the Navy. I was up there in Seattle. I'd go over to the Kingdome, and this guy was great. Uh, he was right next to, he was a New York Yankee, but he went to the Mariners, Jay Buhner.
Oh, Bone.
Yes, and they had Jay Buhner haircuts in the stands, and they shave you bald, so you could get in line, get shaved bald, and get the Jay Buhner look. And there was about 50 people got in there and got their head shaved that night. Let's see here. Okay, San Diego Padre, a guy they had a lot of hopes in, but Shane Abner, and I think
Oh
he was the
yeah.
number 1 draft choice. And
Yes,
I
it
don't know,
was.
either injuries or something happened, but he just had a brief stay in baseball, as far as I remember. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Toronto Blue Jay. We'll all remember that game where he got the big home run to win the World Series. Joe Carter with the Blue Jays.
Joe Carter,
Was,
former
was
Cub.
I was going to ask you about that. He played with a lot of teams, you know.
He came
Either
up with the Cubs, and in '84 we traded Carter, uh, child molester Mel Hall, and
whoa,
I don't remember who else, to the Indians for Rick Sutcliffe, who proceeded to go 16-1 for us.
hey, there you go. Well, you got to trade talent to get talent, like you said before. But Joe Carter, he's one of those guys. He was on a ton of teams, but when you get moved around, you're either a guy that nobody wants or you're somebody everybody wants. And Joe Carter helped out every team he ever played with. I remember Padres, all those teams. I like catchers because I love the equipment and everything. And here's Mackie Sasser of the Mets. I
Yeah,
remember him running like a bat out of hell for a foul ball, and he slid in the dugout and broke John Tudor's leg early one season. I remember that. And hey, you know, you got to get out of the way. They're coming in. I don't think you can do that anymore. I think there's a big drop off now, and a lot of them have like some sort of thing in front with a screen on it where you just can't, you know, run in there. A lot of guys try to catch a foul ball and sometimes flip over the railing there. And okay, I got 2 more. Oh, they got a hologram here, and of all teams, it's the New York Yankees. I don't know if you could see that with all the glare I got in here, but there it's the Yankee emblem right there. That's pretty cool. And 2 more cards I got here. No Hall of Famers, but I have Yankee Mike Flowers.
yeah,
Yeah, nice player. He had power. And finally, you know, you had Maddox, Glavine, and Smotes. And I think at their height, they had the 4th starter, and it was Steve Avery right there.
yeah.
Steve Avery, very good player. So he
Couple
was,
good years, and then just kind of fell.
yeah.
They, he pitched more major league games than me.
It was me too, and he had a lot of accolades, and but he just wasn't Smoltz, Glavine, and Maddox. But that doesn't happen. Those
No.
3 guys.
Well, JJ, next time we talk, we're going to be knee deep in World Series games.
Ooh, yeah, it might be over. No, it won't be over. It
Oh,
starts Saturday.
yeah.
This is almost like Super Bowl, where you got that week building up to the Super Bowl. Usually, you don't get this long. It seems like
They
there's a
have
long buildup.
Friday and Saturday, then Monday and Tuesday. So the next time we record will be the night they have game 4. So,
Okay,
all right. Well,
sounds good.
JJ, you
Woo!
have a most wonderful week,
You too, sir.
and we will talk next week.